Previously on Ex-Wives Undercover.
I said, well, what's going on? Why does closing keep getting pushed off? Is there a problem? And he said, ma'am, I don't know what kind of man you're married to, but you're not buying my house. I had no words. So I had my dad with me, and he drove me straight to the closest, at the time it was National City Bank. And we started looking at my account, and he had emptied my bank account. It was gone. All of it was gone. I fought so hard with the prosecutor's office to put him, like, Department of Corrections, like in a real prison. In my opinion, he got away with it. Yes, he has a criminal record and he lost some months of his life, but he's right back out there doing it again. So he didn't learn a lesson. It's not, and that's the point of jail, is rehabilitation, and there is none. And he's still doing it. And I can't help but wonder, all of the other victims that are out there now because Hancock County, Indiana didn't handle business.
Welcome to Ex-Wives Undercover.
Liars, cheaters, and love cons.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Athena.
First we told our story, and now we're sharing all of your craziest and most heart-wrenching stories of love gone wrong. Sometimes we laugh.
And sometimes we cry.
But more importantly,
we stand together. All right, girl. You ready to do this?
Let's do it.
The views, information, or opinions expressed on our show by our guests are solely the views of those individuals involved, and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and guests may change at any time. Our podcast and YouTube show may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, violence. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Season 5, Episode 4 of Stacey's story, John Bragg, the all-around conman. We can't disagree with what John's former wife Susan said in the previous episode. Hancock County definitely didn't handle business, and John Bragg was right back at it, conning his way through life. Let's finish our story with Diane, the woman who fell victim to one of John's many money scams when she took her Volkswagen Bug to get restored by his latest business venture, JB Bug's Trick, Truck, and Rod. She had just found out from a friend that something was going on and to call him. This eventually led her to join a Facebook group called Sticking Together, formed as a support group of John's victims.
I would drive past there on the weekends and see my car sitting outside their shop. And after he told me in November that it was getting ready to go to Chattanooga, I had gone over there and I couldn't find it. I don't know where he had moved it to, but it was not there. So I didn't think anything about it until, I start seeing pictures from other people's vehicles at the Chattanooga shop. And then I'm asking, hey, where's my car?
Yeah.
So I get online and the JB Trick, Truck, and Rod website or Facebook pages, they're gone. Like, you can't see anything. So I happen to know the name of the person who had the car in Tennessee, and I messaged him on Facebook, and I was like, what's going on? And I instantly get call me, and he gives me his cell phone number. So I did call him and I talked to him. He said, we're not sure what's going on, but the guys at the indie shop had gone to work and they couldn't get in. Come to find out, the rent hadn't been paid on that building since March. So the landlord went and locked the building. So the guys showed up for work and they couldn't get in. Longs found out that the rent hadn't been paid on their building either. So they were scrambling, trying to get money together to pay their rent so they could stay in their building. And come to find out, JB had sent a ton of his cars down there to be worked on.
So both locations were not, the rent was not being paid, or just the Tennessee?
Both of them. And then talking to Gary, he hadn't had a payment made to him since March either. And so then everybody's trying to find JB, and he's not responding to text messages. His phone's been shut off. He had deactivated his Facebook. Nobody could get a hold of him. So then people were like, we've driven past his house. There's nobody there. It looks like they moved out in a hurry. So yeah, he just took everybody's money and skipped town.
So how did you connect with all the other people trying to figure out where your cars are at? And did you ever get your car back? Or how did
That's
that happen?
another story. Darcy was the one who started the Facebook page and kind of got everybody band together.
And then how did she learn about you and all the others that he conned? Was it just kind of word of mouth? Or
yes,
everyone started inviting people to the page?
Yes, definitely.
Was there a purpose other than just to compare stories? Or were you like, we have to find him? Let's get him. Like, how are we going to put our heads together to find
there were some people that were trying to find him. Mostly it was just for us all to be able to, talk about our frustrations and our experiences and stuff like that.
When you kind of realized y'all got scammed, how did that feel? Like, were you thinking, I'm never going to see my money again? Or I'm going to find him and take him to small claims or something? I'm going to try to get something from this? Or what was your kind of thought process?
Oh, honestly, I was angry. I'm a single mom. Have been since, my son is 24 and I divorced our dad when he was 1, 2. So yeah, I've been a single mom and I work hard for everything, and it just really honked me off, that you stole my hard-earned money and didn't give me anything in return. I mean, I do feel blessed that I knew where my car was. I did know where my engine was, because I know there are other people whose cars came up missing. I know there was another victim who JB sold the engine, but sent the car to have work done on it. I mean, it was just crazy, his way of thinking.
John was back on the run, and for months, nobody could find him. He had a new lady love at this point named Melanie, and if you remember, she was also on the business license for the popcorn store in Indiana. She was also with John in Florida when he was going by the name Matthew Solomon and conned a woman out of thousands while he claimed to have cancer. And according to the arrest warrant affidavit, she was listed as a co-defendant. Was she or wasn't she involved is the question. What we do know is that after leaving the JB Bugs car repair shop, he fled to a new state, West Virginia. And do you think he straightened up his life? Abso-fucking-lutely not.
Multi-state, multi-year investigation for a man who said he was the owner of a car restoration business has now made its way to Kanawha County, West Virginia. Deputies say 45-year-old John Bragg has schemed at least 30 people across Indiana, Florida, and possibly West Virginia to the tune of nearly $300,000. News Channel 3's Kimberly Donahue spoke with the lead detective on the case in Indiana about why he needs your help to bring the suspect to justice.
Cott says Bragg has connections in West Virginia and even made contact with him on a phone call on a visit to the area in December, saying he turned himself in. Cott estimates there are over 30 victims from several states and at least $300,000 stolen. 3 cases are filed against him, and now there are warrants out, including auto theft, theft of car parts, and fraud. Cott believes Bragg may now be on his way to scheming West Virginians using similar strategies, and says stopping him may end heartache and financial ruin for people here and around the country.
We want to hold him accountable.
The folks who got scammed from his car repair shop weren't going down without a fight. And they took to social media to help find him and hold him accountable.
In April of last year, 2021, I was looking for someone to help me with some technical metal work on this 1957 that I'm restoring. And I came across on social media a shop called JB Bugs. And they were posting fantastic pictures of their work, busy place, premium Volkswagens in their possession, posting on Instagram and social media. And I got hooked on this like so many other people did. And I gave JB Bugs, this shop, my 1957. Now, my story's different. I got my car back and the work was done, but there were a lot of scary moments. I can't tell you how many trips I took from my home here in Cincinnati to Whiteland, Indiana, which is just under 2 hours from here, just to keep this owner, JB, on his toes. So allegedly, this person that we only knew as JB, I didn't even know his last name. And I think back, I can't believe I gave this person this rare car that I've had a substantial investment in. I gave him this car and didn't know his last name. And it turns out, allegedly, that this person has stolen over what we know now to be over $500,000 from Volkswagen hobbyists. We know now that there are tens of cars that their owners don't know where they are now. So who is this guy is now what I'm trying to reconcile with. And how did I spend so much money with him not even knowing his last name? And the stories of the shop people that worked for him didn't know his last name. And so now this story is starting to unravel about who is this guy? Who is JB?
This guy had lied to me the entire time I'd been there. And I was baffled by it. You know, this is somebody who was supposed to be one of my closest friends. I mean, he helped me move into my new house. He was there when my last son was born. We talked every single day. And for me, you know, I feel horrible for everybody that got screwed over financially. You know, it absolutely sucks. Some people lost family heirlooms. Some people lost money they've been saving forever to get their car done. But the people that it hurts me the most is the employees, because I know each and every one of them personally. I know that 95% of them lived paycheck to paycheck to support their families. Every one of them had kids or grandkids that they were supporting and taking care of depending on this money. Why couldn't he have just stayed focused on the legitimacy of this business? And he could have went so far with this.
Oh, yeah.
And it blows my mind to look back and think about that, you know, because yeah, if his heart would have been in the right place and stayed in the right place, it would have went so far.
John Good. Isn't that interesting? John Good. It's not even his real name. Unbelievable.
While the search for John was on, he took up a job in construction and went by the name John Kelleher. As expected, he found a new victim that we'll call Kelly. And just like with Stacey, he lived just a few doors down from her, and within 3 months of dating, he was trying to plan a wedding and putting offers on a new home for the two of them. He even told Kelly that he put a cash offer on a $2.5 million home. But in true John fashion, he conned her into putting a giant amount of cash down for the earnest money he never gave back. Of course, the realtor never received proof of funds, and he ended up telling Kelly that there was just too much work that house needed, and so therefore they should keep looking. Kelly's friends and family could see the red flags about John immediately. He inserted himself into their close-knit circle, even coaching Little League and going to Bible study with Kelly. Her good friend Clarissa thought she'd do a Google search on John, and nothing came up because he had given them a fake name. He literally did not exist on the internet, and that was a huge red flag for her. Things were getting sketchier by the minute when John had taken $10,000 from Clarissa's in-laws to redo the flooring at their home. But to their shock and surprise, when they Googled Charleston, West Virginia construction fraud, up popped John's picture. Of course, they immediately called the police, and the next morning they staged a takedown of John Edmund Bragg II. He was finally arrested. Let's hear from Stacey again and get her thoughts about hearing that her old flame was still up to his old tricks.
did you have any thoughts? Did you check in to see what he was doing at all during the years? Like, what was the time frame of when you ended things to when you started hearing about him conning the Volkswagen Bug people, and there was this big chase and this big Facebook group where everyone was trying to get him? How did you get involved with that?
Crazy. Let's see. Well, yeah, I'm nosy by nature, and so
Me too.
So I always wanted to keep up with him. I knew he wouldn't come back here, but I did want to, like, I kept up with the bigamy case, where then he got the slap on the wrist, and then you can sign up for those victim notifications where it kind of will tell you where to been arrested again, and those always started coming back up, and so I knew that he had a couple run-ins where he had scammed businesses, and then and I'm a lawyer, so I can keep up with court records, and so I kind of would just keep track, and it was just the same shit, him conning people out of money, buying people's businesses and then bankrupting. And then eventually, and then I would also track his mom's Facebook. And honestly, he wasn't around his family, or at least she didn't post about him until the cancer shit started. And so she started posting. That was before the VW thing too. At some point he said he had cancer, and I knew that he didn't, but there were a lot of prayer requests for him with that. So I just would Google him randomly. If I was at work and I was bored, or I would get on Facebook and see and find, and then I saw, this is before the thing, I saw that he had gotten on Facebook and that he had now bought this VW restoration company. And for a second I went, that's a good bit. I said, I wonder if he went straight. But then I was like, he was never into cars. He doesn't know what the fuck to do with a car. I said, so it's going to end badly. And so I would keep track of it. And he would post how great it was. And he was buying all of these other little businesses, and he was consolidating an empire. And then random day sitting at work, I Googled him on Facebook. I searched him on Facebook, and somebody had said, bam, this guy's a con man. He's a loser. He stole all my money. And that's when my psycho ass started getting on all the VW groups. I have to know what's happening. And so, because it's something in me went I know so much about this man. I have to know these people. I have to get with, because they didn't know anything. They were where I was that day in my apartment, where I just realized what his name was. They were clueless. And so I found that group, Sticking Together, and I joined it, and I told them my story, filled in the blanks with each other, and it those people meant business. They were not letting him get away with it. They were out millions of dollars that he had stolen from them. They're very serious about car collecting. It's a very, this is their thing. And they're a very small community where they all trust each other. So this guy just blew it up, and they were pissed. And then I contacted Kara Kenny, who's the news reporter who did a story on him there. And it just all started coming. And he was back in my life again, But this time it was, I want this. He needs to be in prison, because he will not stop if he is not in prison. And these people were so flabbergasted, and I just wanted them to be it's okay, he's so good at this. And then now, of course, we've got Melanie with him, the new wife.
Talk to me about how, because I remember in one of your earlier emails when we talked, you had said that it's hard to get other women to speak out because a lot of them are entangled with him. So can you talk about how he does that? Because with the current wife, she's actually on all the legal business documents. So it's he's kind of having them take the fall for these cons. So can you talk to me about a little bit how he does that?
I think because he does what he did with me is he puts our names and our social security number on everything. Beverly, his second wife, I don't even know at this point. I think Jody was the first. I don't know. But Beverly, when he was with me in New Orleans and it all blew up and we tried to contact her, she wouldn't talk to us. but she had not seen, she did tell I think she told my aunt that she had not seen him in 6 months. She did not know where he was, but that she was getting judgments, that she was upset and couldn't talk to us because she had all these judgments against her because he was using her information. And I think he did that with, he can't use, I guess now but Melanie is more of an accomplice with this. I mean, I don't know how much Beverly knew. Melanie gladly uses her information. And Melanie's an enigma because we don't know how much she does know or how much she is an accomplice and how much she doesn't know. We really don't. So, I don't know if she was willingly conning people with him or if she thought maybe I could get him to go straight with this. We don't know. And she won't talk to anybody. There's a lot of people who are petrified to speak to us because I don't know why. I guess it's just either the trauma's too fresh or he really does a number on people. And then the thing is, he escapes in the wind. So you have no recourse. And that's why this was all very important. He was on the run for a few months. It was a long time. It might have been maybe 6 months he was on the run. Him and Melanie ditched their house, left everything in it. And then we didn't know where he was. Nobody had any idea where he was. They were able to get the cops in West Virginia found Melanie and she was able to get him on the phone and he swore he was going to turn himself in. Well, he didn't do that. So apparently he was living in, I don't know, I think it was wherever he got caught. He had moved there and was doing construction work. They found him, and that's when they arrested him, and he was sitting there with his flip-flops on and looking completely defeated. And that's when they finally got him. He was done.
At the time of this podcast recording, John was expected to take a plea deal of 20 years for the federal wire fraud charges. Let's not forget that he still has to face state charges as well. And at the time of this recording, there was a new article that came out on March 6th, 2024, in the Daily Journal that read, a default judgment had been entered against a Whiteland hot rod restoration company for deceiving customers and failing to complete work it was hired to do. The Indiana Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit in March of 2023 against J.B. Bugs Trick and Truck Shop LLC and Palm Principles LLC, both operating under the name J.B. Bugs, and owners John E. Bragg II and Melanie Good for their failure to perform work after taking payments for customers seeking restoration of vintage Volkswagen vehicles. They were ordered to pay $352,000 in fees and restitution. With that said, as we wrap up this story, we asked our fraud expert Anna how to identify the red flags of a romance money scam, and here's what she had to say.
Is there any telltale signs that they're going to be money motivated?
That's a really tricky one because it can start being very, very tiny asks. And a lot of them will pay little bits back at the beginning to build trust that money will come back. And then the bigger ask comes, and then the bigger ask comes. The ones online actually buy their victims gifts as well. They pay bills. I've had where victims have had phone bills paid, they've had breakfast food sent to their house, beautiful bouquets of flowers. Just because they're overseas doesn't mean they don't put the effort in. They do to build the trust. But that can start very quickly, those little asks, and then move into something bigger. But you've also got, and I have had cases where there is a long con in place. So they will get married. And the fraud actually comes from even when you're married, and then they will divorce down the line to take half of what you've got, So, or they will take a mortgage out on the house that you're now sharing with them without you knowing. And I've had cases like that here as well. So that's a really tricky one to say to look out for a red flag, because it can be perfectly normal when you're in a relationship to say, oh, can you just lend us 20 quid? I'll pay you back on payday, and they will pay you back. But that can then move into something bigger. I think it goes back to that feeling thing. if they're asking for something that doesn't feel okay, or you feel pressured into making a decision quickly. There's a case over in America currently with a lady that she's just gone public with her story, and it's a property investment sort of scam again. So, and that's very common, where they will say to the person, the victim, that they're building this new company, or for this it was real estate, like property management together. So it was something for their future. And then she was investing money into that, but the money wasn't going into it. It was going in his pocket. And, you know, he's been doing that before with other victims as well. But there was the time constraint on that. If we don't get the investment in now, we're going to lose the property. So it was that time pressure. And the bigger career criminals tend to follow that kind of pattern as well.
Let's hear from Stacey one more time. What has she been up to since her relationship ended with Sam Blair, also known as John Bragg?
How was the healing process for you? How long do you feel like it took before you put yourself out there to date again, or whatever? I mean, were you just like, I'm done, I'll just be solo forever? Or how long did it take?
I have a lot of friends. So, I mean, I was going out. I got my life back. I think I met my husband, John, by the next May, like May of 2009. And we just met randomly at a bar. And it was funny when I met him, like everyone wanted a copy of his social security card, his birth certificate. And he was like, what'd this guy do to you? Because this is crazy.
No kidding. I joke about that all the time. It's like, would it be too, weird if I asked you for everything before so I can do a full background search?
Can we, like, I don't even know if we had FaceTime back then, but it's like, I need to see your parents. I need to make sure they exist, because this guy, nothing was real, And back then, you couldn't Google anybody. It wasn't like it is now. So you kind of got breadcrumbs. You never got the whole story. But no, John, I went from like dating. I didn't date until I met John, and so it took me about, it was like 9 months. And then it was just like,
Did you carry on any like insecurities into that relationship? Like, where are you at? What are you doing? Do you feel like you found yourself kind of asking those questions? Or are you like, okay, I know what the red flag feeling feels like, my intuition, I'll just wait till I get those vibes and then address it? Or,
You know what the fucked up thing is? Like, they love bomb you, right? And so it's hard to tell whether someone is love bombing you or if they're genuinely treating you like you need to be treated. So, John, I always, like, I go in, of course, with insecurities. I knew who he said he was. I had met him through someone else that I knew. So, I mean, you carry a little bit of that, but he was pretty legit from day one. It was just more of the, am I taking this too fast? Like, we didn't take it fast, So it's all of that. Like, you're just very cognizant of what's real and then how it should be versus like how it really is. But he could be love bombing me too. You just get so like, you don't even know. You don't know what's kind of real.
Yeah. You kind of get in your head a bit.
Yeah.
I always say too, I almost got addicted to the love bombing, I guess. And so I had to teach myself how not to be love bombed, because I almost took it like, oh, he doesn't like me. If he's not love bombing me, he must not like me. Yeah.
Yes.
And like, so I'd be like, yeah, he's not very interested. He's just not like, he didn't say I love you after the third date. I mean, is that weird? And everyone's like, Amber, you're so brainwashed. Like, he really, 5 years of that, then you kind of expect that. So if you go into a date and they're moving at a normal, healthy pace, it feels weird, really weird.
You don't even know what a normal, healthy pace is, because that's where therapy came. That's where therapy came in. If I didn't have therapy, I would have been like swinging in the wind, like, to be like, okay, is this normal? And like, a therapist knows generally what's normal. And I remember my therapist telling me stuff like, okay, Stacey, for future reference, moving in after 2 weeks is not normal.
No shit. You think?
If you meet
Okay,
someone,
so this brings up another thing, and I've had this conversation with friends. There was a period when Pinterest first came out where, do you know, like how girls would create folders of quotes and it'd be like, take chances and you never know what you're going to miss if you don't take that chance. And, you know, all these like quotes that kind of like brainwashes you into thinking like, oh my God, 2 weeks is not fast. It's just meant to be. Like the stars are aligning and I'm following those quotes that I've always pinned, you know, like I should bring up some and post them. It's embarrassing, but the shit that I posted on Pinterest years ago when it first came out, it's all these inspirational, like, you know, Disneyland fantasy world posts. But I remember like, it's, you know, it's meant to be, you know, this and that. It's not bombing. It's not crazy stuff. Like, it's just life. I'm taking that chance because, like, if I don't take it, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly. It's like you're feeding your own delusional denial.
Yes.
You know, you're trying to
Yes.
convince yourself. It's like you kind of know it's not normal, but you're trying to convince yourself that it is. I don't know.
What about just, you know, just wrapping things up on your story? Like, I know it's been a long time, but what were some of those kind of learning moments of like, what would you tell other people that have been through a relationship like this, where it's not just, I don't need, it's just on all levels of conning. It is the ultimate love con, really.
I would say number one, trust your gut. And if your gut's not telling you anything, then trust your friends and trust the people who know you the best. Because it's really hard when you're in it to see it, to look, it's hard when you're in it versus outside looking in. And that people aren't trying to hurt your feelings and they're not trying to destroy your life. And whether they're right or wrong, just don't discount it. That's, you know, because those are the people who love you versus the guy who you've known for 2 weeks who's just moved into your apartment. And, you know, and I bet it does happen. I bet there are some couples that did do that after 2 weeks. But if people are telling you that things are, if where there's smoke, there's fire. So, and your gut's not always going to tell you because they're very good at, you know, telling you what you want to hear.
It's so hard. You want to believe in the fairy tale that this person is portraying themselves to be. It's hard to tell yourself it's not true or listen to your gut. I remember just feeling like, I don't want to be wrong. I'm going to feel like the worst person if I break things off and move back home and I was wrong. Like, what if he proved me wrong and was like, I didn't cheat and I did have cancer and I don't know why it bothered me so much of like, what if I made the wrong decision? And I was scared to just pull the plug, even though my gut was like, Amber, everything's wrong here. There's not one red flag. There's a million red flags. Like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like, why couldn't I hear?
I think it's an ego. It's an ego thing too, because it's hard when you want to, and I think Anna said this too. You want to prove people wrong, you know, but then I'm thinking when 50 million people are telling you, why would you have to prove anybody wrong if it was the right thing? You know, so that's how mind fucked you get. And I would tell people it's okay to be wrong. It's okay for it to be wrong. Like, you're not letting anyone down. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, you know? And I think that was a part of it with me. I felt like I kept having to prove something. It's just best that you are safe and not, you know, in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, it is hard. It is. Maybe that's just growing older. I mean, you get wiser and you do kind of get this, I don't give a fuck attitude. And I don't know why I'm so worried about what people think. And it's okay to make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And so my big ego, I should say, was so like embarrassed that I didn't want to tell everyone like, oh, I'm the dumbass who moved up to Washington in 6 weeks and married some guy that's a complete scam artist. I was so embarrassed. And who cares? I have a podcast now about it, but
that's right, girl.
It was a lot. And it was like, you have to put your ego aside and be like, man, I screwed up to, you know, bigger than most people, but I own it. I take ownership of my part in it. But again, it's learning lessons and you get wiser and you can't not go through something like this without learning something or getting something from it, because I sure as hell am not going to do it again. I'm never doing it again.
And the thing about it, there's so many of us.
Yeah.
And none of us, and look at us, all of us are smart and intelligent and pretty and successful. Like, there's nothing wrong with us. It's just, that's what gives me the strength to always talk about it, you know, because we're victims. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes. And I love that you're a badass lawyer, and we've had counselors on, lawyers. Now, it's not like we're some stupid bunch of women. I mean, stupid in a certain, maybe just trusting. Maybe stupid's not the word. It's trusting. And I think everyone has their threshold of how trusting they are. And I grew up in a pretty normal family. I would say I didn't have a reason to not trust people. So I had a very high level that I automatically gave to people. And that's not a bad thing. It's not my fault. And just like, it's not your fault. Like, you know, if I grew up in a situation where I had to be distrusting of people, yeah, I probably would go into this relationship not trusting. But anywho, anything that we didn't cover that should have covered, or, you know, if John, Sam, if he's sitting in, if he's sitting in his fucked hard, that's his new name. If he's sitting in jail right now, because I know they get iPads and shit in jail, because my ex has an iPad, and he's, browsing podcasts, and he sees his name out there. Any words that you would love for him to hear?
Just that I'm glad we got you off the streets, because the damage is, the damage goes deep, and I know he doesn't care. I don't think he has the capacity, but I'm just glad we got him off the streets. And I bet he never see or hear my name again. So always watch your back, fucker.
That's right. Got you, motherfucker.
And once again, if you like what you're hearing, please leave us a 5-star review and make sure to join our private Facebook group for even more juicy info. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And of course, you can always visit our site at www.xwivesundercover.com.